All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first of 4 webinars in our Xcelerate Learning Standout series. The goal for these 4 sessions over the next month will be to provide tools and guidance on how to get your business noticed among the noise. Presenting these workshops will be our digital service squad from the Digital Main Street program. For those of you that don't know what Digital Main Street is, it's a program and service that helps businesses achieve digital transformation. So the program is built around an online learning platform, structured training programs, and the Digital Service Squad, who are a team of highly trained professionals who help businesses grow and manage their businesses through the adoption of digital tools and technology. When businesses join Digital Main Street 3.0 and complete the onboarding process, they receive a free digital assessment and recommended to-do list that identifies technologies and tools that can help their business meet their digital goals. Along with the digital assessment, they also have the opportunity to work with a digital service squad for up to 10 free hours. The digital service squad can work with businesses one-on-one to activate free and easy to use tools while also providing recommendations for other technologies. Today, we will have Laura Bainborough, our photography coach, teaching us how to take our online visual presence to the next level. She'll be going over creating client attracting imagery, using flattering lighting techniques for your online presentations and video content, as well as using must-have gear that won't break the bank. What we ask is that if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We will make sure to get to them at the end of the session. So without further ado, I will let Laura take it away.
Hello, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm hoping, I'm going to assume.
Yep.
Perfect. So as was mentioned, today we're going to go over some visual impact, and we're going to talk about just ways that you can stop the mindless scrolling that we often do and draw some attention to you and your business. Okay, so as mentioned, my name is Laura. I'm the owner of Laura Joy Photography, and I am the Digital Service Squad Photography Coach. So today we are going to learn just some phone photography 101. That's just to take some better photos with your phone. We are going to talk about setting intention for your imagery and how to get more impact from setting intentions. We are going to talk about basic lighting techniques, and we're going to do a small gear guide as well as to what you can do to kind of up the ante on your presentations and your video content. And then at the end, we're going to go through some really cool tricks just to create additional visual impact and give you some creative tools to do that. So the first thing is we're going to go through photos with your phone 101. So the very first thing is you want to use natural light. So often what happens is we'll try and take a picture of like our product or somebody with our phone, and we put them maybe under like a pot light or something like that. That's the wrong thing to do. So what you want to do is you want to try and use natural light as much as you can when it's available. What happens is tungsten lights, which are the ones that are typically in your home, or fluorescent lights, they have a white balanced tone that's not very flattering. So a tungsten light has like a yellowy hue to it. So if you're taking pictures of something, especially something that's white, it's going to look really dingy. It's going to look kind of dirty. And that's something that just doesn't really resonate with people when they look at a photo. Same thing with fluorescence. It actually has a green hue to it. So same thing, it can make your skin tone look kind of gross. It can kind of make things look a little dingier. So when available, definitely try to use your natural light. One thing that a lot of people don't know is when you get your phone, the settings for the quality of your camera are not typically at the best setting that it can be. This is especially for video. So what I would suggest you use if you are, as you're watching this presentation, if you wanted to go through your phone, if you go to the settings and then you go to the camera part of your settings, you can click on that, and then often it says video quality. You'll notice that the video quality might not be at the highest quality that it can be. The reason I default this is because that would take up a lot of space on your phone if you're using it at high quality. So do keep that in mind. But if you are trying to do some content and you want really, really crisp imagery or video, definitely take a look at that setting and make sure that you're at the highest possible setting. And then, what I would suggest too is maybe putting it back if you're just doing some fun videos for, at home or whatever, just so it doesn't overload your phone. The next thing is, if you're not really sure how to edit your photos, or you're you struggle with getting a good exposure, the best rule of thumb is either all sun or all shade. Of course, our phones are great now, and they can really, they do have a lot of information, but it is going to be hard to fight with the shadows, the heavy shadows of the shade, and then the heavy highlights of the sun. So if you're going to take a picture of a person or product, try and move it where the light is even. The next thing is to use the portrait mode on your phone. So this is more on like the newer phones, probably within the last like 3 years or so. So if you look on your phone, typically it'll say photos. And then if you kind of toggle through, there's usually different modes. So sometimes there's like a time lapse, there's like a panoramic, sometimes there's, of course, this depends on your phone, but there is something called a portrait mode, or there might be something sort of similarly named. And what's cool about the portrait mode is it actually recreates as if you put like a lens on your camera and you're getting this like really, really big depth of field, or really shallow depth of field rather. So what that is going to do is blur the background, and it's going to look a little bit more like a professional photo. If you use the portrait mode with an all sun or all shade photo in the natural light, you'd be really surprised at some of the quality that you can get. So definitely play around with that, because that's really good for both people and product. So if you want your product to highlight and then you don't want to have anything, in the background distracting it, that's a cool way to do that. The next thing I would suggest is to play with the editing settings. So of course, professional photographer, we're so used to editing our photos and things like that. But if you're not really familiar with that, you can really do a lot with just the editing settings on your phone. So like I mentioned, if something is looking a little yellow or dingy, what you can do is you can go into the editing settings and you can add a little bit of blue. So typically there's like a warm or a cool slider. So you could just add some coolness, and then that will make your whites look whiter and crisper. So there's so many different aspects of the editing settings. There's like hue, saturation, there's clarity, there's all these different things that you can play around with. So I would suggest, just if you're in the parking lot somewhere and you're bored, just open a photo and try and edit it. Often, sometimes too, there's like a magic wand or something like that you can click, and it will just auto enhance your photos. So you don't even really have to do anything. It'll just sort of make that decision for you. So now we know kind of what makes a good photo, but the question is, what makes a great photo? So that is emotion. We're talking about impactful imagery, and what is impact? Impact is having you feel something. So what we want to do is we want to create a feeling with our imagery, because what will happen is, of course, if someone is feeling something, then they're more likely to take action. So if that action is perhaps buying from your business, or it could be giving you a follow, or it could just be that they want to read further, like read your post further. So if we kind of look at these 3 photographs underneath, the first one on the left, well, first of all, I should say all 3 of these photographs are taken for very different businesses with very different demographics, and they're trying to hit different emotional pain points or just emotions. They're trying to convey a different brand. So the very first one on the left, this is for a personal trainer, and he is going for men who are trying to get fit. That's the demographic. So we're kind of going from sort of a sports vibe. So we're going to go a little bit more aggressive with the imagery. His pose is a little bit more confrontational. He's looking right down the barrel of the lens. He's sort of running right at it. So this is going to invoke kind of that determination, that power emotion. And that's more likely to kind of get the demographic more excited about working with him. They go, oh yeah, I want to be strong like that guy. I want to be powerful. So they're more likely to, listen to what he has to say and perhaps hire him as a personal trainer. The one in the middle, this is a yoga instructor. So a very different emotion. She's going for inner peace. She's going for balance. She's going for serenity, nature, spirituality. So here we have a pose that's very introspective. She's holding herself. She's doing breathing exercises. She has her face up to the light, and she's got a bit of a smile because she's just trying to breathe in and take in nature and be more mindful. The last photo is for a dance company. And of course, we're promoting, yes, that it's a good dance company and that they're good dancers and they're gonna get trained very, very well there. But another aspect of dance is the community and the lifelong friendships. So this photo doesn't actually have a face in it, but it still translates that emotional bond, that ride or die friends. So just thinking about the emotion that you want to convey when you're choosing to make imagery. So I'm going to go into this a little bit more in depth. And I will say, if you attended my presentation last year, I did go through this. So I am going to whip through this a little quicker than I did last year, but I think these are really important concepts. So if you don't remember from last year, hopefully this reignites it. But I will go into it more depth, or I did go into it more in depth with my previous presentation, and I will send out a link to that. So if you want to watch that, you certainly can. So basically what we want to do is we want to set intention for our imagery. And the best way to do that is think, how do you want your audience to feel? So when they look at the photo, how do you want them to feel? Do you want them to feel excited? Do you want them to feel educated about your business? Do you want them to feel introduced to you? Do you want them to feel connected to a broader community? Do you want to inspire them? Or do you want to invite them into maybe the behind the curtain, or sort of let them know all of the other parts of your business? Do you want to kind of give them a glimpse of that? And lastly, do you want them to feel reflective? So I'm going to go in a little bit further into these aspects, but like I said, feel free to go to the other presentation if you're not quite grasping it. So the first thing is, if you want them to feel excited, typically this is an image that you're using to promote something or announce something. What you can do is you can choose really bright colors, you can choose movement, you can choose playfulness, or you can choose bold words. All of these are going to grab the eyes of the viewer, and they're going to be more likely to pay attention to what the photo is portraying. So for example, bold words. So this is a post that I had done right after the first lockdown of the pandemic. And I wanted to announce that I was back shooting and I was able to photograph again. So I just wrote the word bang, because I wanted people to kind of question why I wrote that. And then the caption was, I'm ready to shoot. So if you just capture something that sort of makes, or if you just put something that sort of makes people question what you're doing or why you put that out there, they're going to be more excited to read further and sort of see what you have to say. The next one is introduced. So we as business owners are often the faces of our business, and we want to be in the community, and we want to be connected within the community. So the best way to do that is to show your face. And a lot of people have a really hard time with that, because we all have vanity and we don't always want to be up in the forefront, but it's so important to show your face. And I cannot stress this enough. If there's two businesses that are providing equal quality of work and they're around the same price point, typically what's going to happen is people are going to choose to work with the business of which they know the person, and they connect with that person. So what I suggest is throughout your imagery to always be finding different ways to reintroduce you or your team, or the people behind the scenes, because it's really going to make people connect with you and your business. So when you're thinking about doing that, of course, you want to do some of your classic headshots, but you could always do some shots with you and your pets, or you and your family. You could do some fun team shots so that everybody knows who's working with you guys. You could do photos of you doing things that you love, or you could do the classic photos of you in your work setting if you want to keep it more professional. But you just want to show up. So for example, this was an artist on the left here. We knew we wanted to do something a little different versus the classic headshot. So we thought, well, wouldn't it be funny if we had her laying down on the ground, and then there's all of her art around her, almost as if she's thinking it up. It's sort of like hovering around her. And we knew that her art was really bold and bright, so we were going to mimic that with the colors that we chose. The other photo here is somebody who promotes products that are natural. So obviously it makes sense to put her in a more natural setting, but she's obviously a fun person as well. So we try to think of some fun ways to kind of bring your eye in and add some energy to the photo. So like I said, you have to do this a lot. Every time I post a photo of myself, that's when I get the most engagement. And I obviously can't promise this to everyone, but I will typically get a lot of direct messages right after I post something of like, oh, I want to work with you, or I love this idea, this was so creative, or whatever, just because I think that they feel like they know me and they're not scared to reach out. So it might feel like overkill, but not everyone's going to see every photo you post. So definitely post a lot. The next thing is, do you want your audience to feel educated? So these are images that are going to put you in the expert position, or they're going to showcase a product, or you can like showcase your product in use. So the best way to do that is by showing or guiding in an image. So for example, we have a Pilates or bar instructor, and you can see her, she's showing. It's clear that she's the teacher there. This is a good time to use words and graphic design because you can explain further with the words and graphic design. Or you can, for example, oh, did you know that we make house calls? And this shows this vet is now in the home of somebody. So it can educate your audience as to what you're doing. And the next thing is you want to connect the audience. So whether you're connecting the audience to the people in the community or certain specific community, i.e., oh, the health and fitness community, or the photography community, or whatever, you're choosing this imagery to connect the client to you and that community. So for example, you could choose photos of a client, or what you could do is you could actually ask your client to send photos to you to post of, say, them using your product, or them in a scenario in like a lifestyle scenario or something. The other thing is teams or partnerships. You could, even if they're not necessarily people that work with you, you could have a team shot of all the people who have businesses that help your business. You could find creative ways to include all of these businesses too. So as you can see on the photo on the right here, this was a business that was actually, sorry, this was two businesses. The first business was a Reiki business, and the other one was actually a jewelry maker, and they do jewelry with like intention behind it, sort of thing. So with this shot, it was the person doing Reiki, but also we were able to include some of the jewelry. So it was just a different shot to be able to include both of the businesses in sort of a lifestyle aspect. The other thing too is, of course, if you are going to charity events, make sure that you're taking those pictures. People want to know that you're involved in the community and that you care. So the next one is inspired. So this is a really good time to show your why. And a lot of your why might be in actually the content that you're posting in terms of the words. But this is a good time when you're choosing photos. You could do something maybe more artistic, whether you are an artist yourself and you take photos, or perhaps you just find an artistic photo that really speaks to you. You want to get maybe some introspective imagery. This is a good time for before and afters, because it could show, for example, the example I have here is, here I was at a job I hated, unhappy and feeling stuck, and here I am today. We all know that Instagram is the highlight reel of everyone's life, but this is a really good time to post those photos of grandeur. So if you're on vacation or you're doing something you truly, truly love, this is a good time to post that, and sort of show why you're doing what you're doing and what you love. So the other thing is a behind the scenes. So you're inviting them to see behind the curtain. And this is a really good way to show your value or to further show your personality. So if you can look at the bottom here, you can see I did a time lapse, and I wanted to just show the work that I'll put in before. This was a cake smash for a 1-year-old, and they wanted like a fairy garden theme. So I just wanted to do a time lapse of, this is how I build the set. This is what I'm doing before you even get here. I'll do this with my retouching as well, because it shows not only that I'm working right when I am shooting, but I'm working before and I'm working after. So if you have something similar in your practice, this is a good time to show the behind the scenes and show how much work you're putting in to your business. The other thing is you could do bloopers, right? So this is sometimes, I know if I have done a reel or like a story or something, sometimes I'll save the bloopers because I think they're funny, and I'm in a business where I can kind of be a little sillier. So people like to see that personality and that humility. The next thing is, did you want your audience to reflect on the image and what you're trying to convey? So this is kind of a time when you can sort of ask questions of your audience. You can have them sort of deal with trigger pain points, which I know is kind of an ugly word, but that is a part of sales, is that you're trying to provide a service or product that's going to help a pain point. So this is a good time to do anything that's like a metaphorical imagery. If you have anything emotional, you know, sometimes people post pictures of themselves crying, and I personally think that's great and very brave. And it can draw a lot of attention, and it can really drive home your point. So just thinking about these kinds of things, and of course, storytelling imagery. So just to give you some backstory of the photo here, what this was I was photographing for a psychotherapist, and we were doing some headshots and things, and she said, oh, can you just avoid taking pictures lower than here, because I have a hole in my shirt and I just put this little heart patch over it and I just don't want it in the photo. And I was like, no, this is so perfect. I love this as a metaphor. I think this is such a great like postable content, because you're taking something that you know, you felt was a little, you know, imperfect, there was a rip in it, or, you know, a snag or something, and you were filling it with love and you mended it, and it's beautiful. So I just thought that was such a cool metaphor for what she was doing, and I thought it was so worth taking a picture of. So just keep an eye out for those little storytelling images. Okay, so next we're going to go on to finding your light. So this is if you're going to be doing a lot of video, or you're trying to get into the reels, or you're trying to get into Facebook Lives, anything like this. Having flattering light is going to really help people pay attention and keep it, and it's going to help you keep their attention. So the first one is very basic, and you're probably doing this already. So what this is a front-facing window, and basically with this, if the sun is too bright, you want to try and find a way to diffuse it. So that could be with your shears, or it could be with a bed sheet if you needed to pull that out, as long as it was something that was sort of translucent-ish and it's going to diffuse the light, then that's going to be a much more flattering light for you. The other thing I would recommend is, of course, turning off all the tungsten lights or the fluorescence in the background, because that's going to change the color tone of your video. Lastly, you also want to put the phone or camera slightly above your eye level. So right now I have my laptop and it's on a stack of books, because I don't want it underneath me. I want it at my eye level or slightly above. And that's just a good rule of a flattering angle. You don't want to be shooting up your nose or shooting at your double chin. You want to be opening your eyes and creating a jawline. Okay, so the next one is an alternative basic natural light setup. So a lot of us are in spaces where we can't get in front of just a front-facing window because there's either too much stuff in the background, or you know, there's not enough space to get back, or whatever it is. So this is a way that you can sort of bend the light that's coming from the side, so it's a more flattering light. What happens is side light is actually not very flattering, because what it will do is it will sort of pick up every imperfection in your face. So we want to try and fill the shadows that are being cast on our faces. So in this diagram here, you'll see what we photographers call a V-flat. So that's just like almost like white foam core that you're bouncing the light back into the shadows. So you can actually get foam core at the dollar store, and you could just put it on a table so it's like at your height level. Or you could get tinfoil. You could put tinfoil on something to reflect light back in a pinch, or you could get those windshield reflectors, which are the things that you put in your car to like reflect the light out of your car so it doesn't overheat. I've used those in a pinch as well. So I'm going to just show you kind of the do's and the don'ts. So as you can see on the left here, this was a side light. I did not diffuse the light, so that's that harsh sunlight coming in. What it's doing is it's bouncing the light all over the place. So my yellow floors are bouncing up on my skin. It's kind of discoloring my skin. So what I did to fix that was to pull down the shears and diffuse that light. And then I put, we actually, photographers have a reflector, and you can buy one as well if you don't want to use foam core or anything, and you can just get them on Amazon. And what that is doing is what I mentioned, it's reflecting the light back and filling in those shadows. So you can see here, I have, harsh sunlight here and heavy shadows, and it's picking up all my fun acne and all that, all that good stuff. And then when I brought in the shears and I reflected the light back, it's opening up my eyes a bit more. It's giving me a more flattering light on my skin. It's making it look a little bit clearer. And then I realized in the photo here that you couldn't actually see what was on the reflector. So this is what was on the reflector. It's just like almost like a tinfoil sort of fabric, and it's just going to bounce the light back. And it's truly amazing what that can do and just change the lighting completely. So I don't know if anybody saw this, but this was actually the reel that we posted to advertise this seminar. So what I did was I just used the lighting setup that I was just previously talking about, but I threw a backdrop in the back just to add some color and just kind of vibrancy. You can get these backdrops at any camera store. This one, you can just order them online, or you can go to Henry's. Typically they're about $40 to $60, and they come in so many different colors. So if you have a branding color that you want to stick with, you can purchase those. And sometimes there's not enough space to actually put a backdrop stand. So what I'll do is I'll just use painter's tape, and I'll just roll it upside down and then tape it at the top, as you can see here. So I thought I would just kind of go through how I made this reel, and I will just mention I had done a version where I had misspelled something, and then I redid it, but I sent myself the spelling mistake, so I'm sorry about that. But basically, so what I did was I filmed this in my Instagram stories. And the reason I did that is because when you film something in Instagram stories, you have access to filters. And what filters can do is they can just sort of subtly change the way the video looks. And in my opinion, is sometimes a little bit more flattering than straight out of the camera when you're just, using your phone camera. So I am going to go into Instagram stories a little bit more later on. But what I did was I just filmed using the Instagram stories, and then I saved it. And then what I did was, see this box here, I saved one version that had no box, and then I drew with the Instagram stories, the box. You could just see the full box there. And then I saved that. And then I brought it into an app called Splice. And what you can do with these kinds of video editing apps is you can do something called masking. So what that means is you're essentially uncovering one part of a video on top of another part. So that's how I was able to create this, like as if I was actually drawing the box. So I was basically uncovering the box in that app with the masking. It's a little intense to explain over Zoom. So if you do download the app, there are tutorials, and it will show you how to do that. And that will actually help with if you're doing anything like transition videos or anything like that. It will help the transitions go a little smoother. I will forewarn you though, the Splice app is a paid app. So if you do download it, just be mindful, like there's a free trial, but it will auto charge you. So whether or not that's something you want, I don't know, but just be mindful of that. And then what I did was, after I had merged the two with the masking, I brought it into Reels, and then that's when I added the text and stickers. So a lot of us are in spaces that we don't actually have any natural light, or we have poor natural light. So I just wanted to go through a really basic ring light setup, so that if you are doing any Facebook Lives or videos or photos, this is just the foolproof way to do it. So I'm doing it right now. I've got my ring light going, and I'm putting it slightly above my eyes, and then I have it tilted slightly forward just so that it's going to catch all of it's going to highlight the colors of my eyes, and it's going to bring that light into my face. So I just wanted to show the difference between not using a ring light and using a ring light. And what I find really interesting here is that in the camera view of the one with the tungsten light, it's actually quite soft. It looks a little blurry, but it's weird because I hadn't changed the settings at all. So if you see like there's that yellowy light, you're kind of picking up, because it's a downward light, it's sort of picking up all of the shadows and it's sort of making it look less flattering. If you use a ring light, it's going to fill those shadows, it's going to open your eyes, and it's going to look a little bit more crisp. This ring light is a daylight balance ring light. And that's what I was talking about earlier, where a daylight balance or natural light is a very good light. And this is trying to mimic that. So what I'm going to just go through is kind of the must-haves for a ring light setup. So I am going to provide a link to this very package, and this kind of includes everything. I am using the newer ring light. One thing that the ring light that I have does not have a dimmer, and I really regret that. So this one actually does have a dimmer. So I think that will make life a little bit easier, and also has a warm tone. So if the daylight doesn't quite work with your skin tone, there is a warmer light that you can also get from this as well. So I just wanted to kind of walk through what you need. So if you are buying a ring light and you don't want to purchase this one, when you are looking for ones on Amazon, say, these are the things that you should be looking for. The first one is, like I mentioned, a daylight balance. So if you put in daylight balance, typically that will come up. And like I mentioned, having it dimmable is a really good feature. There's this thing called a cold shoe. And what that is basically just a little slot right there. And that means that you can slip your phone with the cold shoe attachment, which is this. And then that can just slip in, and you can see over here, it just slips in right into my ring light, and I'm able to move them together as a unit versus having my phone in front or behind the ring light. They can all be kind of one cohesive unit. The other thing is a stand or mount for your phone. So this is the stand here that comes with it. And then you can get this little mount. And then what that does is just screw into the top of the stand. So going back here, this is just the stand and the mount without the cold shoe attachment. So you can just see that. And then the way that this mount works is you can actually flip it. So you can do either a vertical or horizontal video. And like I mentioned before, you want that cold shoe the cold shoe attachment to attach to your ring light. So those are the items I think are definitely a must-have if you're doing any sort of video content, because you cannot control the natural light. You don't know what you're going to be getting. So this is a good way to control it. I wanted to throw in a few little fun items that I have seen kind of in my travels. I will say I've only used one of them, so I don't want to fully recommend them just because I haven't used the products, but I thought they were cool enough to show you guys. And then if you guys want to do further research, you absolutely can. So the first one I have used actually, and those are LED color lights. And they're just a fun way to add dimension and vibrancy to your either video or photo content. So I will show you that in a second of me using those, but they're kind of a fun creative way to do that. The next thing is a pivoting mount for your phone. So if you were doing any lives, or you were doing maybe some dances, or you were trying to walk around a space, what this thing does is it actually tracks your face and your body, and it will move with you. So if you don't have anybody with you, don't have any coworkers that can actually videotape you, but you have something that you need to show and move, this will pivot and track you. So you don't have to, call upon anybody to help you out. This one I believe is called the Pivot Mount, and I think that you can look that up. I don't think that it's on Amazon. I think it's its own product, but it's definitely worth checking out. And I think it's a kind of a cool product. The next thing is an overhead tripod. So basically this is something that you can film over top, almost like a bird's eye view. So if you are an artist and you're trying to draw, or you're a jewelry maker and you want to show you putting together jewelry, if you're a chef and you want to show how you're putting things together over the stove, this is a really good tool, because it's going to be able to put the camera right above you and get that perfect bird's eye view look. This one has a light and also a trigger. So it's good to have a light that's even and above, so that you don't have any awkward shadows. And then this one also, like I said, has a trigger remote. So what you don't have to awkwardly do is try and like press play on your phone upside down. You can just trigger it and it will start videoing it. So those are just some cool items I thought would be handy if you have certain things that you're doing in your business that you need to sort of solve these problems. So this is me with my LED light. You can kind of see here, I just threw it in the background just to fill, this is my closet. So I just wanted to fill the closet light or the closet with light to just bring an extra dimension to the video. So you can kind of just see there. So I just wanted to go into a few creative ways that you can just bring overall visual impact. So that's either if someone is just landing on your Instagram page or your Facebook page or your website, these are things that are just going to flag as impactful whether the viewer knows it or not. So the first thing is to stay on brand. So if you have a certain color scheme and you have a certain demographic you're going for, you want to stay within that color scheme and that demographic in your imagery. So for example, this is a business owner. She's a journal writer. She makes these journals for you to fill out. Her demographic is women, sort of young women. So she wanted to go with, you know, light pinks, very feminine, very romantic style of imagery. So when you're thinking about posting your imagery, you want to try and stick within those brands. So here's some other ways we could stay on brand. The first one, like I mentioned, you can incorporate your brand colors. So you can use your backdrops, you can use the clothing that you're wearing, you can use those LED lights and bring in the colors of your brand with the lights, or you could use props that have the same color tones. And then that's just gonna be a subtle way that you can sort of put those colors and branding throughout your imagery. The next thing is you want to keep a look within your imagery. So that's a good time to use a preset. You could find a preset for the photos that you're taking for your business. Word of warning with the presets, you're still going to have to edit them a little bit. A preset, and if you don't know what a preset is, it's just sort of like a recipe of an edit that can go over a photo that will make the photo look sort of the same throughout all of the different photos. So it would be like brightening it and adding pinks and or whatever for that last girl, right? So a word of warning with the preset, it's not a magic button that's just going to make everything on brand. You're still going to have to edit some stuff, but they are a cool tool to use. The other thing, of course, is using Canva templates. And Canva, you can actually upload a brand kit to Canva so that you can use your branding colors throughout. So for example, this presentation was all done with my branding colors because I was able to use my branding kit. You can use planning apps, and that's planning apps are great because it can give you a sense of what your Instagram grid is going to look like before you actually post it. So you can actually drag and drop all of the photos or the content that you want to make sure that there's like a nice aesthetic flow, and you use it as a pre-planning software. So you can basically batch out all of your social media and plan it in one day, and then you don't have to do it as you're going. It'll just post it for you automatically. And you can just see here, this is sort of what it would look like, and you could click and drag them. And then the other thing too is when you're taking stories, you might want to use the similar filters to stay on brand when you're taking stories, just so that people understand, oh, when I see this visually, this connects to this business. Using your logos and fonts often, of course, is a really good way to stay on brand. And I thought this was really interesting. I just wanted to note it. So I was talking with a business and she does a lot of Facebook Lives. And what she did was she printed her logo backwards and then had it in the back of her lives, because what happens is when we're getting filmed, it mirrors the video. So she had it printed backwards so that when she was doing her Facebook Lives, it was the correct way. And I thought that was such a brilliant detail that I never really had thought about. And you could totally carry this into any Zoom presentations you're doing. There's a way that you can put in digital backgrounds. So if you wanted to flip your digital background, then when you're actually filming, it will be the right way. So just keep that in mind. And then of course is to stay on brand is to post from your why. So going back to setting those intentions for your imagery. So a lot of us are small businesses that are promoting products. And I think people get a little bit bored with their product. They don't know what to do with it. They kind of have taken pictures over and over again. So I definitely suggest to do your research and play with the product. A good way to do that is to create a flat lay, which is basically like a bird's eye view of your product, and you can incorporate it with other lifestyle props. So maybe put it in a scenario in which that product would be. I'm not going to go in depth with this, but in my previous presentation, which I mentioned will be linked, I do a whole section where I break down how to create a flat lay. So definitely take a look at that. Okay, so the next thing you can do with your product is you can utilize tools like Canva and bring out design and video and sort of add a little more oomph to your product. So for example, I took this picture of this can of bubbly or bubbly, I'm not sure how you say it. I just took this picture with my phone. And what I did was, as you'll notice, I used the lighting setup that I was talking about earlier, where I was bouncing the light with that foam core. And I took the picture with my phone. I brought it into Canva. And then what Canva had, the Canva Pro has an option where you can actually cut out a product. So what I did was I just clicked that button, it removed the background, and then I added this cool background in the back with some of the Canva stock imagery. I took the product, I duplicated it, and then I reversed or inversed it. I took the transparency down so that it looks like there's a bit of a reflection. And then I just animated it. And then it looks like an ad. And it took me like all of 10 minutes. So if you're really stuck, that's something that you could do with your product. It's kind of a fun way. You can also do this with your portraits or anything like that. Like you can do some fun stuff in Canva. So definitely take a look at it. So since we are kind of on the concept of video, I want to talk a little bit about getting creative with our video content. Video is definitely where things are going with social media and advertisement. It's the thing that grabs people's attention and holds people's attention. So if you're a little bit scared of getting into it, just think of it as a creative outlet and it can be really, really fun. So this is where I wanted to talk about Instagram filters, and specifically Instagram filters within your stories. And if you don't, stories are those things that go away on Instagram after 24 hours. So I say use Instagram filters responsibly because there are a lot of filters that are meant to totally change the way you look. They're meant to give you bunny ears, or they're meant to do all these fun things, which, like I said, are fun, but maybe not the best choice for your business. So what I think about when I think about Instagram filters is I think of them as a way to get creative. So here is a reel that I did. And I had this concept that I wanted to talk about kind of all of the hats that I wear as a business owner. And I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I did it as if it was like an intro to one of those 70s TV shows where everyone looks at the camera and kind of waves and it's sort of cheesy and just sort of fun. So what I did was I found some like 70s music on the Reels app, and then I found my most 70s looking clothes at home, and I videoed me in all different outfits, introducing me as like different parts of the team, even though it's all just me. So what I did was I knew that I wanted a very vintage 70s look for this concept. So I was able to just search in the filters, just 70s. And then I was able to find some cool filters that worked for what I was trying to convey with this concept. And also just to further explain how I did this, the beginning of this reel, I wanted something more, I wanted something more 70s looking. So I actually brought the video into Canva and then found a more 70s looking font and then added that to it. So what I did was I filmed all of these sections with the Instagram stories and then saved them to my phone in sections and then uploaded them as a reel and edited them together. I know it feels like a lot, but if you start to play with it, you'll get the concept pretty quickly. So I just wanted to show you kind of where you can find these filters. So if you open up your stories on your Instagram and then you swipe all the way to, you keep swiping left so that you're getting to the very end of these little circle icons, you'll see this one, it's called Browse Effects. If you click that, it'll bring up like a search bar and it will bring up a homepage of all these different filters, but you can just type in what you're looking for and usually it'll come up and you can just choose whatever look that you want. And it can be really fun. So just another example of me using it, I was promoting a Harry Potter mini session, which I know is very specific, but I wanted that dark academia look because I was trying to hit a demographic that loves Harry Potter. So the concept was I was going to do a point of view from the Hogwarts student who's running late for their first class at Hogwarts. And I wanted to film it all dark and moody like you would in a Harry Potter movie. So what I did was I just searched up dark academia because I knew that that was the look I was looking for. And I was able to film it and kind of showcase the props and use this as a different way to promote my mini sessions. So I know a lot of businesses are not in an industry that maybe allows itself to be that creative. You can't do like Harry Potter stuff and 70s things. And so I understand that. But here are some ways that you can utilize these filters for your own brand. So the first thing is that you can find your brand colors. So for example, if your brand colors are, you know, like I said, pinks, you can just search up pink or light pink or feminine, any words that kind of work with your brand. And you can look at all the filters and you'll find all of these cool filters that you can use when you're doing your video content. Another keyword is blogger. If you type in the word blogger, you can find some really nice subtle color tones. They're not overly anything. They're not too specific. They're just sort of nice color tones. And I used a blogger preset for my my video I did on the blue earlier. You can make videos more seasonal. So, you know, for example, if it's Christmas time, you can just put in Christmas and sometimes you'll find like snow falling. So maybe you're trying to promote the outside of your building. Oh, come in and we've got great new products. You could have the snow falling and just make it more Christmassy. So it's just a fun way to like add something different and add more visual impact. You can also apply subtle skin smoothing. Like I mentioned, use responsibly, but if the only thing that's keeping you from posting something is you feel like your skin's just looking a little not great that day, there are filters that are just subtle enough that'll kind of just make you feel a little bit better. So definitely that mixed with good lighting will make you feel a million times better. The other thing you could do is you could put in sparkle. And if you wanted to make your product sparkle, you could do that. It just makes it look more epic and people won't know necessarily why it looks cooler or more epic. They might not even totally clock that, but they just like, oh, wow, that looks really cool. I don't know why. And then lastly, you can find very interesting frames. So if you type in frame, sometimes you could just get like circles or it will make it look like it was being filmed from an old camera or, you know, there's all sorts of fun things you can do. I went to a murder mystery and it was like a 20s themed and I was able to find all these cool 20s themed filters and I was able to do the whole night in this like 20s theme and it's fun. You can really play with it. So last but not least, if you are getting stuck and you just want to add some interesting visual impact, there's actually apps out there that you can make your photos 3D. I don't know if this is here to stay or if it's a fad, but I do think it's a really cool thing. And this was made with an app called CapCut. CAPCUT, and it just has a button and it will say make it 3D, and basically you just click it and it will make them 3D. So anything that's like a forward image will look really cool. I will forewarn you, it doesn't always work. If there's like a lot of face in the image, it'll pull faces and it'll make them look kind of warped and weird. So it doesn't always work, but it is a really cool way to like just grab someone's eye, especially if you have a cool image. So that kind of ends all different ways that you can bring impact to your imagery and your online content. So I'm happy to take any questions now. I know there's a lot of content there, so I will do my best to answer everything.
Perfect. Thanks, Laura. So we do have a couple questions within the chat. So the first question is from Michelle. So this was back when you were talking about the camera settings. So her camera settings say things like 1080p at 30 FPS. How do I know what is the higher quality? So when you're going into your camera settings on your phone for videos, how do you know which one is the higher quality?
Typically, it will go from lowest quality to highest quality. So the reason it's at 10, I think it was 1080p probably, and 330 frames per second. So that's a pretty good place to start. That's going to be crisp enough, but it's not going to be so much information that's going to overload your phone. I know that my phone goes up to like 4K, which is like a really crispy, when you think about TVs, that's like a 4K TV. But then again, like I said, that just sucks up your storage. So if you're doing it for something specific, you might want to bump it up to something very high like that. But a good rule of thumb to answer your question is usually it starts at the lowest setting and then goes to the highest quality setting. If you go sort of somewhere in the middle or somewhere upper middle, that's probably your best bet.
Perfect. And then Denise has a question. Would an Archon mount be a brand that makes overhead tripod styles?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yep. So would the Archon mount be a brand that makes overhead tripod styles?
I can't think about, like, I'm not really sure what brand that is, but if you type in overhead mount, a bunch of different things will come up. So like I said, I haven't used the product, so I don't want to recommend anything because I don't know what it's like. My suggestion is if you're typing it into Amazon, just be mindful about the star ratings, right? Because that gives a good indication of what the product is going to be like when you actually receive it. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't really know that brand, so I can't expand upon that.
No problem. And then Stephanie just asked, what was the name of the 3D app? Maybe if you want to post it in the channel, the name.
Yeah, and that is actually on the takeaway that I gave you as well. There's like a cheat sheet, and I kind of list a bunch of different apps, but that one was called CapCut. And there's all sorts of other features of CapCut that you can do. You can like speed things up, slow them down. You can edit video. Like it's basically like the Splice app, but it just has a couple other features to it.
Okay, perfect. And then Denise has another question. Where do we go in Insta Reels to edit them or use cool features? All she knows how to do is the 30-second Reels with music, but wants to do more.
Okay, so just so I make it clear, what I did with a lot of those other Reels that I did, I would film them in stories and then I would save them to my phone, but I would not post them. So you just save them and there's like a little downward arrow and that will save it to your phone. So then what you can do is you can open the Reels app and then usually at the bottom, there's like a little circle and that little circle will open to your camera roll. So if you filmed a bunch of things and you click on the camera roll, little icon, it's like the little circle at the bottom, that will open up your camera roll and you can select all of the videos that you want included and then you can edit them from there. So it'll allow you to expand or cut down what part of the video you want. And then they just changed it too, which is amazing. You can actually rearrange these little videos as well. And so you're basically thinking like a video editor. You know, when you think of a movie, they just get all of this film and then they cut it all together. So you're doing the same thing. You're just taking a bunch of film and then you're going to be cutting it all together. What I suggest is just play. The only thing there's probably tons of tutorials online, like on YouTube, but definitely just do a couple fake ones and just sort of get a sense of how it works. And then once you have it all together with your music, it will go to, there's like an arrow and then it will go to the next part of your Instagram reel where you can add all of your text and you can add your stickers and all that fun stuff as well. I know it's a lot, but hopefully that sort of answers your question. So take all of the videos from your stories, save them, and then they're all chunks of video, and then you can bring them into your reels from the camera roll and then splice them together.
Perfect. Denise said that does help.
Okay, perfect.
Great. So if anyone else has any questions, pop them in the chat now. We just have a couple more minutes before we wrap up here.
I know it's a lot of information, but the takeaways have the lighting guides that I was talking about. It has a list of the apps that I would use. It has some just tips and tricks as well. And what else did I have? Oh, I have a visual workflow. So if you're trying to think of ideas, it will let you write that down and you can actually think of your concepts for your visual imagery.
Perfect, I think. Patricia, where you can find the download. So for everyone, we will be sending out an email with all of Laura's resources that she has provided, as well as her social media links. So that'll get sent out to everyone probably about 10-15 minutes after the presentation is done. So you can look to that in your email from the Small Business Center account. Perfect. So we'll wrap up then. I don't see any additional questions. I just did want to let everyone know the next workshop within the Xcelerate Learning series. It will be next Thursday, the 27th. This will be with our Digital Service Squad member, Anthony, and this will focus on stand out and know your numbers. So we'll be going over topics. Do you know if your marketing efforts are working? Learning how to measure your marketing and determining what strategies are converting for you in terms of the numbers. So if you haven't already, go to our events page on the Small Business Center website, register for that. There's still plenty of time. But other than that, thank you everyone for logging in. Thank you, Laura, for an amazing event. And we hope to see you all soon.
Thank you so much, everyone.